just wanted to know. I wasn't up. I don't see your name. That's right. Okay.
It has no name, it's just a number.
Moishe,
Put your name on your phone.
Moishe. How do I do that?
On a caller ID, right? Must be caller ID here.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
So I was up early this morning and went to the yeshiva, to the mikveh, and I see there two 14, 15-year-old boys. They've been already sitting and learning for a while. And then I go around the corner in the hallway, and I see another 15, 16, two young guys. I said, what are you doing so early, these guys? Can't sleep. No, coming to learn. We're coming to learn. No teacher there that is, inspiring them to learn. There's no tests coming up that they're, studying for. So why are they doing it? Why? I mean, they're 14, 15 years old. What's a 14 and 15-year-old doing such a thing? Seemingly, it's a lot more exciting things out there that would draw you for a young teenager that you want to get involved in. What gives them the power that they can do such a thing? How does it come about? Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kedoshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We share it with people around the table here. We share it with people around the world on Facebook, Instagram, and we welcome everybody. We are in chapter 9 in Tanya. In one word, Nelchamas, to battle. Life's a battle. A woman was once complaining to the Rebbe how life is very challenging and difficult for her. So the Rebbe smiled and said to her, we never promised you a rose garden. It's never been a promise that that's what life will be, is a rose garden. Although, that's what everybody looks for. Some people are looking for in Gan Eden. They're working hard in this world because they're going to get it good in the world to come. Other people, they work 50 weeks a year in order to have 2 weeks of vacation. Gan Eden now. Some people work a week in order they can have a weekend. And especially a long weekend like now. Wow. But that's, of course, missing the whole point. The whole point is in the struggle. Not about the freedom or the free from struggle. It is about the struggle. And when we recognize that, then you can be a 14, 15-year-old young man, or young girl, but he was in yeshiva, young man, and you're up early, very early, and working hard to study, learning Hasidus, Talmud, in order to better understand the teachings of the Torah. So with that in mind, where did this struggle metaphorically all begin? Metaphorically. It was in the womb of Rebecca, the wife of Yitzchak, of Isaac. What happened? She was barren. Her prayers and her husband's prayers heard on high, and she became pregnant. But there was a lot of battles going on inside of her, a lot of pushing and shoving, and she didn't know what's going on. So she went to the sages of the day, and she was told one nation will prevail over another nation because you've got two inside of you. You got twins. Well, the twins, of course, Yaakov and Esau, Jacob and Esau. Yaakov represents the holy side, the godly soul, and Esav, he represents the animal soul. And she is told that there will always be a battle between the two of them. So, yes, historically, there's always been a battle between Yaakov and Esav. But metaphorically, it's even more so. It's a battle of each and every single one of us. We all have the Yaakov in us, and we all have the Esav in us. We all have the divine soul that's a part of us, and we have the animal soul, the human soul, and the body. And they're battling it out. What are they battling over? So Alter Rebbe explains. So for the body, who's going to rule the body? Metaphorically, it's like two kings that are battling over a small city. They're waging a war over the city. Each one wants to capture it and to dominate it, to have their rule over the people. And not only to have their rule, but to have the consent of the people in that rule. That's what they're looking for. Right? Each king wants that the inhabitants should follow his will. And not only follow his will, obey him, the decrees, and even ultimately buy in to his rulership. So that's the metaphor of two souls. The divine soul and the vitalizing animal soul, which originates in Klipa, the animal soul, and the negative force. They are battling over the body and the organs of our limbs in order to control. Who will win over the individual? That is the question. So what does the divine will exactly want? Well, it wants to be complete ruler over the individual. The divine soul, its will, is that it should be completely ruling and directing the entirety of the individual, every single organ. Every part of us should be disciplined according to the desire of the godly soul. Not only discipline to follow the orders of the divine soul, but it should surrender. I surrender. I give to obey everything. What does it mean to surrender? You surrender your will, that your will is only that of the divine soul. Because, hey, what's the body's will? It wants pleasure. It wants comfort. Surrender that pleasure and comfort in order to fulfill the will of the divine soul, which is to do whatever the divine need is in that moment, right? But it even wants more. It doesn't just want to discipline the body. It doesn't just want surrender from the body, but it wants it ultimately to be like a chariot. A chariot has no will of its own. Right? Surrender means you're surrendering your will, but it means you have a will. But you surrender. Okay, God, I'll do what you want. I'll do what my divine soul is nudging me to do. You know what your divine soul's, gentlemen? You know what your divine soul wants right now from you? He wants you to learn Tanya. Your animal soul wants maybe some other comfort or some other place to go, right? But your divine soul what? So it wants it on three levels. One is discipline yourself and focus. Another is surrender your will to do the divine will, the divine soul's will. And on the higher level, a chariot. A chariot means you have no will. Your will is only that of the rider, of God. Just like the chariot has no will of its own. It goes right, it goes left, it goes straight, whatever it does, based on the rider. So the same thing is, the divine soul is the rider, the body is the chariot. It has no will of its own on this higher level, and it is completely being led by the divine soul. Moreover, that the organs and the garments of self-expression that should be in sync with the divine soul. So what does that mean specifically? Well, as we know, our soul has 3 intellectual faculties, 7 emotional faculties, that our minds should be engaged in knowing God, as we're learning now in Tanya, right? To understand and discern the ways of God, and further to ponder upon them in order that it should now, through one's knowledge, through das, should connect with the idea in such a way that it becomes palpable, it becomes real, it becomes something that influences the heart, that now you have a desire, you have a fiery flash of love for Tanya, right? For a mitzvah to connect to God, right? You appreciate the greatness. And that you come actually to love God with all of your heart. Meaning that your heart is filled with the love of God because the love of Tanya, the love of a mitzvah. And then you come to love God with all your soul. What does that mean to love Him with all your soul? That it spills over from your heart into the rest of your being. That even your animal soul, even the rest of, even your physical reality also has a love for God. How's that? That you just can pick up your feet with alacrity to do a mitzvah, right? Sometimes, you got to do it, but then you just shuffle along doing it. But you don't do it with great enthusiasm. With all of your soul means that you love God, that with all your limbs, that even your feet are picked up with an energy to engage in a mitzvah. Right? And then b'chol ma'idecha, with all of your might, means to the point that you're even ready to sacrifice your life. So what's happening over here? That when we understand, when the divine soul, remember, it's engaged in this battle. It wants to win over the person. So it wants to win over the person. So now that you have this awareness of God, the pondering about Hashem, that it feeds the heart, that you have a love for God, right? And then it overflows, that even the feet pick up, like with a, you're not lagging. You're full of life and everything, right? Then it overflows to even the animal soul also picks up now. It too wants to love God. Instead of having a desire for the mundane, desire for self-directed pleasures, it becomes transformed. And it too wants that and feels a sense of love of God. And this is what it means. You should love God with all of your heart, meaning both of your hearts. Not just your godly soul should love God, but it should overflow and affect your animal soul, that it too wants to love God. In other words, what's the kind of love that the animal soul has for God? Godly soul, what kind of love does it have? The love the godly soul has is just, it knows no other reality but God, and that's all it wants is the connection with God. The animal soul says, what's in it for me? The godly soul doesn't say what's in it for me, because there's no me to have what's in it. All there is connection to God. But the animal soul, what's in it for me? So now it's been so inspired that the animal soul says, what's in it for me? What do you mean? There's no better life than a life of Torah and mitzvahs. It appreciates it. It senses it. It feels it. It wants it, because there's no better life. Inspired by the divine soul. The divine soul, there's no comparison, because there is no other life. The animal soul has another life. Has another life. It knows what comfort is. It knows what pleasure is. But then it came to recognition. Yeah, an apple is sweet, and I can have a momentarily pleasure of some sweetness of an apple. But then I can have a sweetness of a mitzvah. I can have a sweetness of Torah study. That's even greater sweetness, and appreciates that greater sweetness. To the point that you become to what's called an avarabba, a love of delights, a magnanimous love, that it's not that you seek love. All love songs are about seeking love because you don't have it. You're looking for it. You want it. You're yearning for it. When you yearn for it, it means you don't have it. That's the lower level of love. But then you come even to a higher level of you've attained that love. You've attained that love. And no longer is it just a fiery flash of passion that you're seeking the love, but you got it. So pray tell, that's what happened this morning when I saw those students. Young guys. Where's their passion? They have an animal soul. They're not righteous. But they first train it, surrender it, and then have no other will. Because there's only the divine soul that is inspiring to such a degree that it even now overflows and affects the animal soul, and it too, with its strong, motivator, which is self-motivation, is now brought into to allow them to give strength to get up early, very early. I was there 5 a.m, and they were there already for a long time learning. Because when you learn Torah and you're inspired by your divine soul, it's going to affect the battle. It's going to affect the battle of life. Because life is a battle. And if we're not battling, that means we're not living. We're not living. That means we're living on autopilot. And to live on autopilot is living on borrowed time. It's not real. And every moment can be a battle. Right? To focus in the moment can be a battle. To understand in the moment. To concentrate so you can understand the teachings. To put aside what you need to put aside because, we all carry baggage, and therefore when you learn, sometimes you're just regurgitating your old stuff rather than learning something new. It's also a battle. That's if we're in the game. We're in the battle. That takes effort. It's easy to go on easy street and not battle and just follow the animal soul's desire. It doesn't want to battle. That's why it seeks comfort. It doesn't want to battle. Right? And we all know that. Listen, we can have that as an engagement every moment, because every moment that's what it wants. Until you've inspired it well enough that it's too is now, this is geschmack. This is pleasurable. This is sweet and tasty. Something I wouldn't have had otherwise. All right. Any questions here? A reminder, the Torah studies will be Tuesday night, 6:30. I don't see any questions.
I have a question, Rabbi.
Shimon Leib has a question. Please share with
The
us.
question is this, that if you're only accentuating your divine soul, your godly soul, to the detriment of your animal soul,
Why is it a detriment?
well, to the not detriment, I guess, to the The animal soul is overpowering. The whole idea, I think, is to make your godly soul overpowering your animal soul.
That's the battle, exactly.
Is causing the animal soul to be subjected, to be and in that case, you're only sort of focusing on your intellect.
No,
And
we spoke about emotions, spoke about love of God.
no, I'm not.
So let me give the metaphor.
What about?
Let me give the metaphor.
What about making sure that your body is physically in let's say is physically in good shape as opposed and as well as your mind. In other words, if you're always you're always sitting and focusing on
mitzvahs, Torah and mitzvahs,
and God and the connection of your body and yourself
right,
to God, then you are doing this. You can't be
to the exclusion
physical activity at the same time.
Right. So one of the mitzvahs in the Torah is shmartem es nafsheseichem ba'od, that you should guard your well-being. It's a mitzvah in the Torah. So if you're going to the gym for your own agenda, so then it's your animal soul that's controlling that decision to go to the gym, for example. But if you're inspired by your divine soul, and part of the divine souls is that the soul needs a healthy body to live in. So therefore you do what is good to make a healthy body. So then it's the divine soul that can be inspiring you to go and do exercise. It doesn't have to be only the animal soul inspiring you. For most people, it's probably the animal soul that inspires them, because I want to feel good. Feel good is an animal soul response. Be good is a divine soul response. The animal soul does not want to be good. It wants to be good for what it gets for being good. It doesn't want to be good for God's sake. Doesn't. Right? It wants to be good because otherwise what are people going to think of me? I think I'm a no good. Oh, so then that's called self-preservation, right? The animal soul is like an animal, self-preservation, what motivates it. So if you're going to the gym for self-preservation, that's an animal soul motivation. If you're going to this gym or doing exercise because Hashem wants you to do that, so your body should be healthy, and you're motivated because of your divine soul, so then that's a divine soul motivation. So we're talking about who's controlling you. There's a battle inside of us that's controlling us.
I think you're talking about purpose.
The motivator. What's your motivator?
Of why you're doing something.
Exactly. Right. So if the purpose, for most people, the purpose of being healthy is self-preservation, not God preservation. Right?
Isn't self-preservation and God preservation similar? I mean, again, we're talking about the motivation. We're not talking about the end result, right? The end result can be the same. You're both picking up a barbell, right? Both things. So the act is the same, but the motivator is different. So we're talking about here, who is ruling your life? Is it your animal soul? That's the battle over here we're talking about. A battle or the godly soul. Right. That's the question over here. The question is not what you're doing specifically in the right, because again, doing exercise can come from both places, right? Certain things can come, like eating non-kosher food, right, cannot be motivated by your divine soul, right? But eating food can be motivated by divine soul or by animal soul, right? Divine soul is that God wants you to eat in order that you should be healthy.
That's what he wants. He wants you to eat it. So you're eating in order that you can serve God. Right? You're gaining this, you're,
Yes, God doesn't want you to eat the fries.
could very well be. Could very
A burger
well
would
be.
okay.
Huh?
I said a burger might be okay,
All right.
but the fries, forget.
All right, thank you, Rabbi.
All right, folks. Let me see online if there's any questions. Okay, no questions. All right, what should we do about all of these Holocaust survivors that are supporting Palestine? Oh, I don't know. Not teach them Tanya. Bring them to the Tanya class. That's what's necessary. You need to get a Jewish education. You get a Jewish education, then you'll think like a Jew, you'll talk like a Jew, and you won't be supporting the things you shouldn't support.
When I first came to see you the very first time, you didn't ask me if I was Jewish or not Jewish, where I'm from.
It was written all over you. All right. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. We're in the Gazen Library. Thank you for joining. We're going to have Rambam coming.